So I started out my practice in community practice at Lenox Hill Hospital in New York City, and then I ended up going to academic to NYU, where I still have a professorship, and then I went into private practice. So I think that's why you guys picked me. Here are my disclosures, and they are definitely not relevant to this talk. And I took a more philosophic approach to this, like going in and weighing it. There's some metrics to looking at academic versus private practice. So, but what I thought is here, what is really academics? Is it publish or perish, which has historically been what we always say. But I find that it's really more variable, right? It really depends on your university, because there are plenty of universities that do not care if you publish like once a year or every few years. You may have to be involved at the hospital in terms of some QI or some committees. It can also depend on your dean, because some deans really expect a lot and want you to go for grants and put that on. And otherwise, when you're joining academics as an instructor or assistant professor, in order to move forward, which they expect you to try and do, you have to actually go and get these grants, et cetera. It also depends on your chairman. So those are kind of the variables of what you're going to get with academics. So I think when someone says they're academic, somebody actually said to me, I always think of you as academic because you come to the meetings and you talk about all these different things. And I'm like, well, exactly. So what is really an academic position? And what's private practice? Is it going out and hanging your own shingle? Which, by the way, in New York City is you take a plaque and you have somebody, tape it, adhese it to the wall or screw it into the concrete wall. But is it because you get to make all the decisions then? You get to run your practice how you want, and you may have some quicker pivots if you want to make changes to your process. And so I do a lot of bariatrics in my practice, and because of that I have, when there's changes with insurance or something new comes out that I want to try, maybe I have it, I can make those decisions and implement change really quite quickly. So what's been going on with private practice and academics? So private practice, doctors and doctor-owned businesses were the largest small businesses in the US for the longest time. This most recent survey showing that, where less physicians are in private practice, but it's still almost half, right? And it's up, and it's down from 54% in 2018. What's also happening is that there are private equity firms and venture caps that are coming in and buying up some private practices. So you want to be in your private practice for a while before they come in, because if you just started with it, then you might not see the benefit of that. But that's now up to 4%, which is kind of new. And they're also seeing a growth in the number of really huge groups, more than 50 physicians across the country. And that's for a variety of different reasons, but mostly financial and having to do with insurance reimbursements issues. But what really matters is where you want to be and what you want to do. So when I was a fellow, my mentor and boss was Michel Gagne, and he, told me in my first contract, make sure you have 3 weeks. You'd probably give you 3 weeks of vacation, but you need 3 weeks of time slotted just so you can go to meetings and present stuff. So that's what I did in my first contract. Had 6 weeks. And 3 of those were absolutely it was built into my contract that I'm going to go to these meetings and present, et cetera. My plan was to, continue to publish and to present and be participate in surgical societies, because I look at our participation here as a way to give back to the training that we actually received. And then who are you going to be working with? I wrote check the nannies references, because if you were interviewing nannies, you're going to call all the references that they give you, right, to make sure, because you are giving the most important thing in your life, your baby, and giving them to someone. So similarly, figure out who you're going to be working with and find out who they really are. I mean, I'm not saying go on their Insta Yeah, I'm just saying, you can ask around and see how they are and ask people in the department, which is when you go on fellowship interviews, you always ask the fellow who's there, what's it really like? And then think about your own practice and what you want to achieve, right? How's your practice going to grow? If you go into a practice that there's a superstar and then there's also someone who you just went into they hired 2 new people and now you're the 3rd new person, is there enough there for you to grow? Are you going to be in a niche position? These are things you want to consider when you look at your job. And then where do you feel safer and more comfortable? Because private practice doesn't really have a net. Academics usually does, right? So you have to look at your own personal risk assessment, what your fallback is. I have great friends who who are independently wealthy and do not need to operate to make money, and yet they do. So their risks are going to be a lot different than someone like me that I basically unload trucks. What does that mean? If I don't operate, I don't make any money, right? There's no passive income coming from surgery. That's what I got to work on, but that's not where it is right now. And is there a bonus structure? Look at that too, because sometimes you get resentful. You come in, you're doing all the work that nobody else wants to do necessarily. You're working really hard. You're taking more call. The junior person always takes more call. That's just the way it is, okay? So you're going to have to get used to that. But if you're doing all that work and you feel like you're giving it 100%, are they appreciating you? What is the way for you to do more? Because many times, and not everyone's like this, but if I'm doing a lot of surgery, I want to be compensated for doing more surgery than they expected, right? So you want to look at your bonus structure. And then you absolutely want to look at what call is like. You don't want to be on as the only person, for 30 days of ACS call or something like that. And that's happened to people, not often, but it can happen, so you want to factor that in too. And then understand that there's you right now, and the future you may be actually quite different, right? So you have to figure out if you're like, I'm going to just put my head down and work and figure out just do what they ask me to do, and that's going to be the way I am. Are you an innovator? Are you someone who looks at a process and you're like, you guys, I think if we made this small change, all of our lives would be better? We love those people, by the way. And then are you the one who wants to get involved on committees? My best friend, Christine Renfielding, she's the chief of bariatrics at NYU. She loves meetings. She loves them. She's always like, yeah, I love it. I love all these meetings. I'm like, okay. So she likes to go to the meetings at the hospital. And it's not that she loves them, but she doesn't mind. She believes in the process and she's on them to improve for everyone. Or are you a life balance person? Plenty of people are. The truth is there is not really life balance. There's some days you're really good at one thing and other days you're better at others, and that's where that scale is. It's not that you're going to have 30-30-30 in life and family and work. Are you interested in research? Some people want to make a lab and they want that built in. Other people are like, I would do clinical research, and there are other people who are like, I'm just clinical. The research is not, the research is silent. And then are you a writer? Are you able to produce? Because those are things when you look at your job. If you have to write, 2 or 3 papers a year, even if they're like chapters, et cetera, you got to see if this is something you really want to do. I hate writing. I do it, but I hate it. I have writer's block just thinking about it. The other thing is, think about where you're starting a private practice. This popped up on my thing. These are the top 5 states to start a private practice, but it's actually top 5 states to, not California, but taxes-wise, for anybody, these are actually great states. I work in New York City because I'm insane. I have, the cost of living is high, and I pay New York City tax, as well as New York State. Yeah, much smarter people. And this all has to do with taxes, but also the important thing about these 5 states is tort reform and malpractice and how that's addressed, which can impact. I pay a lot more as a bariatric surgeon in New York State than my colleagues all over the country. And I'm still a good doctor, by the way. It has nothing to do with that. So, some of the upsides of academics, you don't have to worry about keeping the lights on. Those bills get paid, you show up your office, you can go in on a Saturday or Sunday, it'll be all good. You get regular salary payments, that's important. There's usually a reasonable call schedule, but not always. And you can usually keep your consulting and legal review fees separate from your salary, and you should consider putting that into your contracts. And it might be easier for you to publish because you have residents and medical students. You know, Dr. Manish Parikh is in Bellevue, and he's got a great mind, and he works really hard and does a lot of surgeries, but he has published a lot. He has a great clarity of what, you know, he wants to do. He does clinical research, and he ropes in our medical students and residents all the time to do that and to decrease the timeline and really get things out there. And then you can also, you know, in academics, usually you have what's it called? You know, money to travel. Stipend, thank you. I don't have that, so I can't remember the word, sorry. Okay, so private practice, you are the boss. I was gonna say that when I'm not working for the man anymore, I'm working for the, that's what I used to say. So, I mean, I would be the one, that meaning that I am that person. So you can make changes to your workflow really quickly, which is true. If I don't like something that's happening, or I see that, you know, the hospital needs something else to be done, and we change our process immediately. And I also get to decide how hard I want to work. I actually want to work hard, so when I'm not busy, it makes me like really unsettled. But you also have more flexibility in adding adding other things to your business. Like I charge for, you know, body comp analysis. I private labeled shakes and vitamins, and I can add other things as well, and I don't have to ask anyone's permission to do that. Downsides of academics, you do work for someone, you are subject to their vagaries. Not every person in charge is actually a leader, they just happen to be in charge. So that's something to consider. You may not be able to add to the breadth of your practice because of turf struggles within the department. Like say you really like doing lap adrenals, but your chairman does lap adrenals, so therefore you can't do them. And when I say corporate compliance, I'm just saying if you wanted to add something to your practice and it has to be vetted through the hospital, or if you want to create a new program but it looks like it's, you know, improperly benefiting you, then that's an issue as well. You have less control of your salary. And again, the downside may be to publish or to get grants, but you don't have the support to do that. And then finally, there's politics. There's politics for me too, but within the division and the department, there can be some politics and that can impact. Downsides of private practice, I am always watching the revenue stream. While I was sitting up there, I realized I didn't pay a bill to somebody, so I just paid it. Hello, thank you, Chase. You may not always be able to take a salary. You know, I didn't work for 9 weeks during COVID. You may not have coverage for your practice when you travel. Thank goodness I do. That's why my best friend works at NYU. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I also take call there, obviously. So, I also have to rely on a hospital. So if something happens and I lose my block time, then I'm kind of stuck. I have to find somewhere to do cases, right? So my practice and for private practice, we rely really on having access to that, having access to an OR where we can do cases. And so those are things that can impact my stream. So overall, I tell you that both have many positives and some downsides, but you have to decide which of those is really important for you. You have to, I kind of look at it like my first job, I was in community practice. I was, you know, pretty much bankrolled. You know, I didn't have to worry about the bills. I got paid, but I was also able to do some publications, et cetera. And so that I kept doing through every step of my practice. So that really hasn't changed. It didn't matter if I was community or academic or private. Embrace opportunities to grow. Transnasal endoscopy. Of course, we're not doing it right now, but it was a great thing. We looked at it. I learned how to do overstitch, you know, to reduce my stomas and things like that. Come to these surgical meetings, not just because they're fun and you meet your friends, but it's also that you meet new friends. And always remember, you have a fellow class, and I find that, you know, people are like, how come you're so close to that guy in the Netherlands? I'm like, he was in my fellow class. I remember him, you know, like, so these are things that are important. You have opportunities. It's an opportunity to network as well. And then you also learn techniques and new procedures, et cetera, that you can bring back to your institution to help grow your practice, or if you bring it back to your own practice, to basically grow not just yourself, but provide more opportunity for your surgical practice and procedures that you're doing, but also offer something to the patients that might distinguish you as well. Okay, thank you.